This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 269 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Benefab Products, TotalSaddleFit.com, and EasySignsOnline.com.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Fergus, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show with an extra bonus, Glenn, our producer.
Hey, guys, guess what? I have news
guys.
for you. I have exciting news.
Oh, what do you got? Tell us
What?
you're exciting.
We're ready.
It's actually, I get to cross something off my bucket list. It's actually officially been on my bucket list. Everybody knows that my favorite horse is a Percheron. I've owned a couple big black Percherons in my life that weighed, well, the last one was 18 and a half hands and weighed a little over a ton. Whoa. And we loved him to death. He was a great boy. Jennifer used to give dressage lessons on him to 5-year-old kids.
Oh.
And it looked like a little flea sitting up there, and their legs wouldn't even go around the side of the saddle.
Wow.
But he was so quiet. He's like the quietest horse we had. We actually took him to the dressage competition, and besides him stopping to look at himself in the mirror, which he apparently really liked the looks of himself, he won like blue ribbons in all the walk trot classes. And I don't know if it's the judge just gave it to him because he figured if that horse can pick up its feet and do anything, I'm thrilled. But he came home with all these blue ribbons, and you should have seen the other competitors when this one-ton horse was beating him. He had the feet of his feet were pie plates. I mean, they were huge feet. But anyway, the World Percheron Congress people heard me saying that in a show with Dr. Wendy Ying of the Driving Radio Show, my co-host over there, and they invited us to come up. So we're heading up to the World Percheron Congress in October in Massachusetts at the Springfield at the Big E.
How cool is that? Congratulations.
800 to 1,000 Percherons.
Whoa.
Yes, that's a lot of tonnage.
Since I have a foot injury, I hope nobody gets stepped on.
Yeah, I know. By the way,
that.
I have been stepped on by my Percheron, and it hurts. It really does hurt.
It hurts. That might be an understatement.
Yeah. Your foot is guaranteed to be black and blue after that. But the other cool thing is we're going to do a couple shows up there, but they also have invited Wendy and I to compete in the celebrity driving competition. Where
Really?
we're going to drive Percheron pairs, and we have to do an obstacle course. So,
why didn't they give you a 6-in-hand?
Exactly. That would have been
Come
cool.
on.
well, you know what's funny
A
about
pair.
that, Philip, is I've driven singles and I've driven 4-in-hands. I've never driven a pair. So this will be my
This
first
be
time.
new for you.
And
Yeah.
apparently they want people that it's their first time because they want things knocked over for the audience's benefit. And I said, I can take care of that.
Glenn, I think you should cheat and practice a little before you go up.
I'm going to go down and visit Wendy, and Wendy's going to have me drive a couple pairs. Yeah, I'm going to cheat a little bit.
Oh, there you go. You are going to cheat.
I am going to
That's
cheat
what I'm saying.
a little bit. But we are sponsoring the Driving Radio Show is sponsoring the award for the worst celebrity driver who knocks over the most stuff. And,
Can't win.
And I found a
So you can't win
trophy
that.
actually that has a horse's butt on it.
Horse's butt.
It's just the
I think I've
horse's
seen
butt.
that trophy
yeah,
before.
so we're going to give that one out.
You won it before, Philip?
Yeah.
I'd say I've had it before. I'm not talking anymore.
It's a radio show. You have to.
Oh, okay.
So anyway,
love
I
it.
just had
That's
to share
cool.
because it's so it's just on my bucket list, something I want to do.
Well, that is awesome.
luck.
Congratulations. And
Yeah,
we
have
can't wait
fun.
to see pictures and hear. We actually hope somebody videos it.
Oh,
so
I'm
we
sure
can
there'll be
see
a
it.
video.
That's what I'm saying.
Could post
We
that.
just
You know,
want
I
to see a
feel
video.
Wendy actually can drive. She was shortlisted for the WEG team for 2010, so she knows how to drive 4s and pairs. Not me.
It's good. I'm glad she's on your team. Give her the reins, Glenn.
Yes,
What
exactly.
I'm just going to say. Well, we are actually recording the show a little bit early, and that's my fault. Next week actually is a really busy week here in Lexington. It's the end of Pony Club Festival. So I go right from Pony Club Festival to, I'm traveling actually to Texas to pick out a new horse for one of my clients. So we needed to kind of get organized a little bit early, and that's my fault. So we're going to skimp a little bit more in the news this week, and I'm really sorry about that. But take a look at our Facebook page. We will make sure that if anything happens, we will put it on the Facebook page so you can see for this week. So, but I know it's going to be a great rest of Aachen and the great rest of Young Riders. And
Reese,
yes.
Do you know how to work the Facebook page?
No, but you do. I do. If I can get to it off of my phone, I can. But that was more, again,
so funny.
as we all knew. No, I don't do anything technical, which includes the Facebook page. So I don't record. I don't do Facebook. I just show up. So that's my thing. So, but anyways,
your expertise is in talking a lot.
Yes,
thank you. That's my
is her
thing. That's all I do.
expertise.
That's your thing.
Yes.
That's all I do.
That's good.
That's my
You do it well. That's great.
Thank you. Well, I there's a thread that I know you guys know. I'll back it up if I have to start recording. I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
I'm not playing anymore, kids. So,
or
but
have
we'll
to do
make
the Facebook
sure Philip, if he doesn't post appropriately, everybody bitch at him because that's his problem.
Okay.
But anyways, we have an awesome show today. I'm really excited. We have Hillary Moore Hebert, contributing editor from Dressage Today, on for her monthly segment. And she's going to talk a little bit about what we can find on the online part of Dressage Today, which is really cool. I think I could have used it this morning when I was sitting getting my oil change for sure. And then we have
hang on, Hillary.
Oh, sorry.
There's like a news thing. There's
Yes.
this news thing about Hillary herself riding a dollar horse to some great results in 4th level, and I think Pre-St. George as well. So it's exciting to have our contributor, that she doesn't just talk the talk, she's been walking the walk lately, right? So that's really fun.
Exactly. No, we're really excited for her. And yeah, we'll hear all about it here shortly. And for our adult amateur spotlight, we have Laura Phillips, and I think you guys are going to really enjoy hearing her story. She is a corporate lady. She has some physical issues that she has to deal with riding, and she just got her silver medal, which has been a long time goal of hers.
Very inspiring. Yeah, sounds like an amazing lady.
Yes, she is. So I hope you all enjoy having Laura on the show. So right after this commercial break, we will go to our contributing editor, Hillary Moore Hebert, for our monthly Dressage Today segment.
Are you tired of treating your horse for soreness? Well, then be proactive. Benefab offers you and your horse a natural remedy to joint and muscle stiffness, inflammation, and circulatory deficiencies. Benefab offers a variety of innovative products, like saddle pads and polo wraps and quarter sheets for your horse, and socks and blankets for you. Simply ride in it or wear it, and feel the difference Benefab's ceramic-infused products make. You can check them out online at benefabproducts.com, or you can call them toll-free at 855-957-8378.
Well, we are so excited to have contributing editor from Dressage Today, Hillary Moore Hebert, on for her segment this month. Hillary, how are you?
I'm great. How are you guys?
We are great. So, Hillary, we have an awesome press release about you. Should I give you a drum roll, Glenn? Glenn, drum roll.
I don't have one. There we go.
Okay, Glenn.
That actually sounds like an actual drum.
That was pretty good.
Yeah,
it was
there
pretty
we
good.
go. All right. Am I supposed to do something?
No, you've got the press release.
You've got the press release, Glenn.
Oh my God!
I didn't realize you actually wanted me to do something. I was.
Come on.
That was
All
what
right.
the drum roll was for.
Let's do the drum roll again.
Okay.
Hillary, I get 1,000 press releases a day, and I was so excited to get one I actually wanted to read, and it was about you.
Oh, you did?
Yes, it says Hillary Moore Hebert. By the way, great last name. Rides a dollar horse at the 4th level. So first of all, how'd you come across a dollar horse? So who'd you steal that from? And then took it all the way to the 4th level.
With a good score.
So-
You got to add with a good score.
Yeah, with
And with a
great
good score.
scores.
With a great score.
Great,
Yeah.
great scores.
Yeah.
So here's the even more exciting news is actually I just got back from Dressage at Lexington, and I took him in the Pre-St. George Challenge. So he's
Ooh.
now doing Pre-St. George.
Even better.
And yes, and he is $1, but I didn't buy him. My trainer, Yana Dyer, did, and she is absolutely awesome. But she got him because, he was not necessarily, on the right track. I'm not entirely sure of the whole story, but when she got him, he just needed a lot of training. He needed to build trust with a rider. And so she said, here's this horse, and here's an opportunity to kind of work through some things. And she has definitely been responsible for, creating his program. And I have had the wonderful opportunity to ride him. And we went out, I guess at the end of May, thinking, okay, let's just take him and do a third level test at Dressage at the Meadow and see how it goes. And, we'll do a fourth level 1 test. And he won. And then we went to another show, and he did fourth level, and he got a 70%, and he was high score in huge classes. He was high score for the whole weekend for fourth level. And so I'm really excited. I should knock on wood 1,000 times, but, I think the scores are good enough that the plan is to take him to Devon. And so he's gone out 4 times this season, and we have 7 first place ribbons and 7 second place ribbons and 2 high scores. So
Wow.
it just goes to show that you do not need $1 million to do well. So I've been really proud of him, and it's been fantastic.
He lives up to his name, guys. Why not?
Why
Why not?
I love it.
Oh,
Yeah.
So,
excellent.
Hillary, tell us about Why Not?
So he is a 2005. It's funny. He has a later birthday, so he's turning 9, and he's a Hanoverian that is obviously from the W line, and he's an absolute sweetheart. But he lives in a field with a run-in shed. He's very low maintenance, doesn't get any, joint supplements or anything, and he just does his thing, and is very fun to ride. Is a little bit, needed to have a confident rider the first couple of shows. If anyone was watching the test, I won't tell you what happened, but it was not as smooth as it goes now. But we took him into the Lexington grandstand in the indoor ring without really having time to school it, and he didn't bat an eyelash. So he's doing fantastically well. So I'm really proud of him.
Wow, and we're really proud of you too. That's really huge to be able to do that. And you're absolutely right. You never know where that horse will come from. So congratulations. That's really amazing.
Well, and I also want to give a shout out because since I have posted that, the number of people who have written to me that have said that they also have horses that they have gotten from, an auction, or they've practically adopted from somewhere. There's one person, Elizabeth, who she's in our area, and she also is doing Pre St. George. She's an amateur, and she got her horse for $500 and is, I think 1 score away from her silver medal. It just is really neat to see. And our company has a program called A Home for Every Horse that's on equine.com, where there's horses that are listed at rescues that are available. And there's actually quite a few that if I had any space in my barn, I would think about getting, because there's, some really nice horses that have training. And especially with the economy and the cost of horse keeping and everything, people just end up with horses that they can't afford anymore that have lots of potential. And it's amazing to see what you can get for $1, $500 or $1,000. And I just really like those stories because you can find them out there.
It's so true. You can.
It's awesome. But again, like I always tell people, it's not the cost of the horse, it's the upkeep, right? Vet bills and monthly,
Yeah.
that's what costs the money. I mean, so it's great if you can go out and not spend a lot of money and get a great horse. I think that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And then spend thousands of dollars on the show entries.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
There we
That's the other
go.
cost. Well, that's a great story about Hillary. Fantastic. Now you can give us a little update from the magazine.
Yes. So I decided it would be really fun to go through some of the stuff in terms of the things that we have on dressagetoday.com, because there's tons and tons of content that is there, with the site having just recently been renovated and updated, whatever the technical term is for it. And I wanted to share them with you. And the first one is by Jeremy Beal. It's Ask the Experts on Putting Your Horse Onto the Bit. And he just gives a really great answer. And he says something that he is quoting from the British Horse Society's manual. and I wanted to repeat it because I think it's great. It says, a horse is said to be on the bit when his hocks are correctly placed. He is flexed at the poll, relaxed in his lower jaw, and ceases to offer resistance to his rider's hand. And I thought that was really interesting because you have people always thinking a horse is on the bit. They're looking at sort of that rounded frame of the neck, that the horse's head is on the perpendicular, but they think so much of what they see in front of them. And I like how this starts with a horse is said to be on the bit when his hocks are correctly placed. And that's what it, is the key, I think, to everything, is you're talking about really the connection through the horse's body.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense, and I like that. I mean, it was interesting because I actually scribed at Young Riders yesterday, and it was really interesting to sit in the box and see, the whole day, and we saw all the Young Riders. And there were so many horses. Honestly, we didn't even really see a very good collected trot, to be perfectly honest. So I would have loved to have given the magazine to a bunch of the riders and said, hey, come on, listen to this, or, think about the placement of the hocks. I think that that's really important to do. So I like that idea, and that people need to keep thinking about that.
Yeah, and something that you said, Hillary, it's not, everybody gets focused on the neck and the head placement, but it's, the entire body of the horse is important. The hocks as well, but the back and the relaxation. I mean, there's so many pieces that need to come together for the horse to be correctly, on the bit, as they say. We'll put it in quotations here, but it starts from the hocks and the energy from the hocks, and don't focus on the head and neck, because everybody can ride in draw reins, right? And put the head down. That's not a problem. But it's the really tough part is getting the submission, the relaxation, and energy through the entire horse from back to front and back again, right? So it's a great point and a great discussion.
And it's funny that you should mention that, because my next tip is about creating and maintaining rhythm at the trot with Suzanne von Dietz. And she says exactly that same kind of thing when she talks about the rider and following the horse's back. She says that harmony arises when the landing phase of the rider's weight in the saddle matches exactly with the landing phase of the horse's weight. If the impact of the rider's weight occurs only a fraction of a second later than the horse's, he will receive a downward push at the very moment when he has begun to rise in his body to take the next step, and this will make every trot flat.
Wow. She has really cool things to say. We saw her at the Global Forum, and it's
kidding.
really
Just different
amazing.
ways to think and look at things. Yeah. I love her tips, and all the stuff I've tried to read. I haven't gotten her book yet, but she was inspiring with her discussion at that forum, really, because it's just another great perspective.
Easy Signs Online is the official sign company of the Horse Radio Network. This week's product highlight are their personalized nameplates. Perfect for horse stalls, tack rooms, lockers, bedroom doors, dog kennels, or whatever you can think of. Choose from hundreds of online graphics to further customize the nameplates from EasySignsOnline.com. Made from 1/2 inch thick solid PVC signboard, these colorful and unique one-sided nameplates are 3.5 inches by 16 inches and are designed for durability, long-term indoor or outdoor use. They are only $39.95 each, and remember, free shipping on most orders over $100. Visit them at EasySignsOnline.com.
And then the next tip, I wanted to sort of stay in the same theme, so I got an Ask the Experts from Melissa Jackson on Back to Front Explained. And I thought that this summed up, sort of all the things we've talked about so far. She says, when watching other people ride, take in the complete picture. Rein contact should be a product of power coming from the horse's hind leg. A training level horse in proper contact will look much different from a Grand Prix horse. But the important concept, no matter the level, is that the horse is moving freely forward with an elastic connection. And that connecting a horse from back to front is the idea that energy starts in the hind legs, moves over the top line, and is received by the rider's hands. So I thought that was just a really nice way to sum that up. And I think it's a neat thing that in terms of having sort of these online tips all together is you can kind of read on one subject, but get this comprehensive covering of all the topics and, see how everybody says it, because I think it helps cover a lot of things, and saying it in different ways.
Yeah, no, I think that that's great. And Hillary, remind us, a lot of these tips are coming off the internet site, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so if you guys go, I had talked about this a while ago, and I just want to remind everybody that if you go to the website dressagetoday.com, there's something called Learn by Levels, and you do it at the top, and if you look, it will say introductory level training and so on until FEI. If you pick your level, so say I am at a 3rd level rider and I click it, and I'm actually doing that right now just to give an example of what actually comes up. You have this back to front explained, like I just said, because it's something that's important at every level. But you also have things like how to correct a lateral walk and things that would be relevant to your level. So say you're a training level rider, it's not going to give you a bunch of things that are covered in the, how to do the piaffe passage transition. So it's only going to be things that are going to really cover what it is that's important to you.
Oh, I love that. And I thought about it this morning and I ended up doing something else. But when had to get an oil change. So I had to sit there for an hour. That would have been perfect for me to sit down and read through some of those. I really love that option. And we all have times when you're sitting in a carpool or you're sitting at the doctor's office and you need something to read. So that would be perfect to pull out. I love that idea.
Well, and I think the important thing is, and it goes back to what Melissa said in the Ask the Experts, is there's different training at different levels. And how she says, that you're going to think of back to front the same, but it's a different frame that you're looking at if you're at training level versus Grand Prix. I think it's really important when you're reading an article or getting tips from something like a clinic that you're auditing, is I think it's important to understand the level that is being covered. And here would be an example that I think is very relevant. I had one of my students' grandkids come to visit this morning, and she was doing a riding lesson. And it was very funny to me because my student is learning how to have, if the horse falls in, she uses her inside leg to push the horse out. And her daughter is riding and the horse falls in, and I say to her, take your outside rein and, open it a little bit towards the outside and pull. But this girl, is just learning to do the walk. So we're talking about, fundamental, let's just get back to the track. And my student said to me, why is it that you're having her steer with her reins when you just told me not to steer with my reins? And I thought it was a really interesting learning experience for everybody to make sure that you're clear with people, because there's so much in riding that you have to kind of do stuff that maybe down the road isn't going to always be right. For example, steering with the reins, or you have somebody who's just learning to ride, you stop by, squeezing with the reins. You say to somebody 5 years later as they're riding around and they say to you, well, why is it that I don't need to pull with the reins to stop? Now you're having me do it with my feet. They have to understand that now they have body control enough that you can ask for that. And that's not something a beginner can do. But I always find it sort of interesting because I get that question a lot of, why is it that for years you've been having me do X, Y, or Z, and now we're doing this and it's different? And they need to understand because they're kind of moving to the next level.
I think that's an awesome point. I also had an experience today. I have a rider that we have the opportunity. We have a new a schoolmaster, and he's a pre-St. George machine. But, we're just learning how to do flying changes, and we're just learning, shoulder in and half passes and all this stuff. And it was funny because her friend was next to me and said, oh, she should be doing this and she should be doing that. And I said to her, all in due time. Right now, I need her to, I have a very clear vision on what I'm trying to teach her right now. And I think that that's really important as you go through to know sometimes, we teach, instructors have people from beginners to Grand Prix, and you kind of know the progression. Sometimes when you come in and you may say, oh, she needs to learn this. And it's like, wait a minute, it's not in the progression that I want to teach her. And that's a little bit what you're talking about is you had a progression on what you were teaching the beginner rider toward a more advanced rider. And I think that that's important to know that. And I think it's important when you read any information that, like you said earlier, it's important to know the level that it's directed toward, because that's a big deal. Because I do have students that come in and they say, oh, I should be doing this with my legs and I should be doing that. And, they're far below that level of, they can comprehend it with their brain, but they're not quite there with their body. So we do talk about that. So I think that was a really interesting way to think about it. So that was a good way to do it.
Yeah, I mean that applies to riders as we teach them, and horses too, right? You can't ride a 4-year-old like a Grand Prix horse. It's very important that the horses learn, the progression. When you've gone through the levels as a rider and as an instructor, you have an idea of where you want to go, but you can't just go there, with a snap of your fingers. Even great riders have to teach the horses as they come along through the levels and as they get better balance and better energy. And it's just one thing after another. And when you've if you're a new rider or even if you're an experienced rider who's attempting a new level, these things start to come together, and that's why you need an instructor to put you on the right path. And why young horses need a good rider to put them on the right path, not necessarily to teach them PF massage at 4 or 5 years old, but to get the components that will be necessary when they are ready for that, riders and horses. You guys were just talking mainly about riders, but it comes together in the same way. It's educating riders and horses towards the highest levels of competition, and there's a way to do that, and the way to explain certain things very simply and to focus on the right thing at the right time. Right. So again, all this information, that we talk about, that is in the magazine, is on the websites. It's all within a context of, for this horse and this rider at this particular time, this is an important point to learn and something to focus on at this time. And then later on, as an instructor that teaches, certain people in like monthly intervals in clinics and types of things, you just say, and then you come back and the person fixes a problem or the horse gets fixed in a certain way. And then you say, okay, that goes out the window. Now we need to focus on something else. And the inside leg is a very important example of this, because when we teach young horses to balance, we do, I especially do a lot of leg yielding and pushing them towards the outside rein. And once they got that, it now becomes a problem of drifting through the outside rein. And all of a sudden you have to, as you're working from first level to second level, now you have to kind of close your outside rein and ride the horse from the outside back to the inside a little bit. And then, people say, and just like you said, Hillary, like, oh, I've been using my inside leg. I've been doing lots of leg yield. This is great. And then I say, okay, it's done now. Right? The horse is to the outside rein. It is good. So just trying to give a little bit example of that, whether it's just a horse, a horse that you're schooling, or whether it's a horse and rider that you're schooling. Not everything is not all the information is great, because it needs a little bit of context about how high the horse is trained and how much the rider knows and stuff like this. So I think that's a great discussion topic, and the more people bring that up, the more useful the information is that we throw at people. So it's a great point.
And I think, that feeds into my last training tip is Shauna Harding did an article talking about riding for a 6 before you aim for a 10. And I think that what you just said exactly feeds into that idea of, make sure that you have the basics down before you start going crazy with trying to do all this advanced stuff. But again, understanding where you are in the grand scheme of things. So just like you said with training the horse, knowing when it's time to move on, it's sort of in the same respect of saying you need to first know that you have it, and then you can start to say, where do we go from there? So I thought that was a really interesting thing that she said. And Michael Barazone, same thing. We did an interview with him, and he talked about the same kinds of things of, ride consistency first, and then when you know that you have it, then you can go ahead and move on to, trying to get more. So I like that idea, and how that can apply to what you just said in terms of just training in general.
Well, and I love that tip, the idea of riding for a 6, because we talked about that yesterday as I was scribing, and a 70% is all sevens, and a 7 is fairly good. So just keep that in mind, as you're going through your test and or riding. And, again, if you have a chance to scribe ever, it's a really good opportunity, because after watching, I don't know how many St. George's we did yesterday, but a lot at the Young Riders, it was the little things. I don't think we gave above an 8. I think we gave 1 8 on the center line all day yesterday, and very few 7s. To canter in and halt, it was tough. Nobody did it, and
nail it, right? You
yeah,
need that
nail
consistency.
it.
Yeah. Come in and nail it.
don't miss points on a circle in the St. George. I can't tell you how many kids did a great shoulder in. They did a great half pass, but they did a horrible circle in the St. George. So I think it's along those same lines of
Reese, it's hard.
It is hard, Philip. It is. I will give you that.
It is hard. Okay.
But I think it is something to keep an eye, think about and do think about. Sometimes riding for the 7 is great, but don't forget that there are other things along the movements that, like the circle or like the center line, that will help you not, that will affect your score as much as the half pass or the shoulder in. So just another little tidbit from yesterday for sure. So. Well, Hillary, as always, we thank you so very much for coming on the show this week. And we have our fingers crossed for Devin and all the fun things that you have with your horse coming forward. I love it. So how can our listeners find you online?
You guys can find all of the articles we talked about and many more on dressagetoday.com. And oftentimes we highlight ones on our Facebook page, which right now we have a great one with Shannon Duick. It's a 2-part on doing the working pirouettes, which I will admit, talking about my $1 horse, I went and revisited before we did our 4th level test, and it helped a lot. So go ahead and look at Facebook and then also Twitter to follow things as we have everything with Aachen and going into the WEG later in the year. We will have a lot of things like scores and results and fun stuff like that.
Hi, this is Gina Moronic from Wisconsin, and I am an official Horse Radio Network auditor. It's something I'm really proud to do and to be a part of in a small way, because it's something that I get a lot of information from. The Horse Radio Network and the convenience of the downloadable podcasts means that I can improve my horsemanship skills, my riding skills, or just really enjoy listening to friendly, informative programming whenever I'm driving to work or working on chores or at the barn even. So I hope you find it as enjoyable as I do. If you do, go to horseradionetwork.com and click on the banner to become a Horse Radio Network auditor. For as little as $1 a month, you can be involved in this great thing too and keep it going. Thanks.
Well, I hope everyone enjoys this adult amateur spotlight. Laura Phillips, who is the corporate controller for Brown-Forman in Kentucky, and she's going to talk about winning her silver medal. Well, it is my pleasure this evening to have my student, Laura Phillips, on the line. Laura is the VP and corporate controller at Brown-Forman in Louisville, and she is also USDF's newest silver medalist. Laura, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Reese.
We had quite a weekend last weekend.
Yeah, all these silver medals.
We had lots of silver medals last weekend. So it was so cool. So Laura, you're such an inspiration, being a corporate woman and fitting dressage into your life. So talk to us a little bit about how you started riding, and then we'll move into your career in dressage.
Sounds good. I was very fortunate to do a lot of riding when I was young. That started doing hunters, jumpers, the big equitation classes. So was, very fortunate in terms of my parents' support. They're not super wealthy, but I had one quality horse of my own, and then had the opportunity to do a lot of catch riding, which I think is one thing that I've noticed is very different about hunters and jumpers and dressage.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier as a good rider to catch ride horses, jumping horses, than it is dressage horses.
I know. I was talking to somebody else about that. I mean, just to be on a tangent, every once in a while. But I was saying to one of my students, like, you just need to ride more. Ask people if you can ride their horse, or gain some more experience. But and they're a dressage rider, and it's like, well, people don't really want me to ride their dressage horse. I said, just ask them. Go out there, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's a little bit. It's a totally different thing. And I thought, well, it would be really nice if dressage riders got off their own horse for a while and see, experience different horses. I think that's really good. I'm glad you brought that up. Anyway, it's just sorry.
Well, and it's to the point you're just making. So much of your riding is about seat time.
Yeah,
and
time in the tack, right? That's why I tell people time in the tack, and you can only ride your own horse for so long, a day that you got to find some other horses to ride, even if they're not the best horses. Every horse will teach you something. So I think.
Well, and that was totally my attitude. It certainly was my attitude as a child, and the sort of horsemanship I was taught, and it's definitely carried over as an adult. So I rode everything. So grew up in Ohio, and rode ultimately with Howard Lewis, who recently passed away. But I'm really dating myself because it was the AHSA then, before the
It's okay. You're fine.
Right. But was, was an AHSA Horseman of the Year, and that was a time when kind of everything under the sun came through the Sugar and Valley Hunt Club, and that's what I rode, whether it was conditioning polo ponies or green broke babies or horses off the track that were doing their very first work over fences, Grand Prix jumpers, everything in between. So he would give me a ride list. Yeah, that would be 6 to 8 horses a day I'd ride in addition to my own. And it ran the gamut, and I was grateful for every one of them.
So Laura,
So
how did you switch to dressage?
Well, my parents were really clear that, so they, for the means that they had, funded a riding education that, I'm really grateful for and has served me well. They were very clear, though, that my horse was going to get sold before I went to college, and that my undergraduate education was the last thing they were going to pay for. And they had a very firm belief that, I'm responsible for my own happiness, and I needed to find my own way in life, whatever that was going to be, except they would not allow me to try to ride professionally. As I found my own happiness in life, that I better find something to do that was practical, because if I wanted to ride, I needed to do it as an amateur and on my own nickel, because, kind of a no fool, and the last thing they were going to pay for was my undergraduate education, which again is fantastic, right? Very fortunate to have had that kind of support. But took them at their word. Yeah. So from age 18 to 30, was just doing catch riding, because, through college, that suited me, but then certainly as a young professional. And what was a practical career became accounting and finance. So started working in public accounting. And from, graduating undergraduate to age 30, I just couldn't justify having my own horse, because I could only ride Saturday and Sunday. And at that point, again, mostly still in the hunter jumper world, could find wonderful horses that, I could catch ride. And as I think, again, it's probably the finance background, right? Like the amortized cost of what does it cost to support my own horse in full training and board and the whole 9 yards, and now amortize that over the 6 to 8 times I might be able to ride in a month. And the cost per ride was like, holy cow, I just can't do that yet. And I certainly missed, though. Reese knows a little bit of a, type A personality, like having things under my control. So certainly one of the things that you don't have when you're catch riding other folks' fine horses is the ability to control much of their management. So, all the horses I was riding were very well cared for, right? But some of them just managed differently than I would have if they were my own horse and under my control. So really looked forward to the day when ultimately I was going to want my own horse. And always as an amateur kind of balancing, with what's objective and what makes objective financial in other sense, and what's just a purely emotional decision. And it was somehow I found my way. So moved around for work, and at this point was living in New York, and still mostly, moving around in the hunter jumper world, and found my way to being a demo rider at a Linda Tellington Jones clinic, and ran into a dressage rider there, that was really how I got hooked into dressage. So she was having health problems, did not know at the time that she'd ultimately be diagnosed with MS, and just wasn't strong enough, healthy enough to ride her own horses, and had several horses at home, including 2 Grand Prix horses that she had in training with Ian Gribbons. So super fortunate there that my first exposure to dressage was, as you can imagine, on really, really nice horses.
Wow, you kind of lucked into it there.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, moon and stars aligned, right? I mean, definitely a charmed path in that regard. And so her Grand Prix horses were older and retired and not very fit, but still way more than I knew how to handle, right? Incredibly humbling in terms of how do you sit on that horse and get that horse, kind of horse on the bit. Very different than the hunters and jumpers I've been riding. But on one of those early rides, did what she assured me was not even an extended trot, a medium trot on one of the retired Grand Prix horses. And that was like the coolest thing I'd ever felt in my entire life. So that was a very easy sell.
Hooked right
from
there.
That moment on.
Yes.
Hooked right there.
And suited me professionally because it also fit nice with a risk management decision for me, where it's, horses are horses. It's inherently high risk activity no matter what you're doing. Stuff happens. Stuff tends to happen more often though when you're jumping at a high level.
Yes.
And so that, in terms of being an amateur and supporting myself and riding as a hobby, it just came to me at the right stage in my life where I think,
well, right?
just more patience for dressage. It was something I was very easy for me to get very passionate about and very excited about, and I thought fit really well in terms of what the kind of riding I wanted to do.
That's awesome.
But I did subsequently find out then that, it was not as easy to ride other people's dressage horses.
No,
and then particularly, fairly early on had set my sights on, well, I ultimately want an FEI horse, and I want to be able to ride FEI. And at that point, that goal was a little more ambiguous for me. What did that mean? Was that, getting to Prix St. George? Was that Grand Prix? Where in FEI dressage was that? But I hadn't gotten that precise about that yet. But it became pretty clear to me early on that it was going to be incredibly difficult to ride at that level dressage on someone else's horse.
So Laura, is that how you ended up getting your current horse, Marcy?
It is. I mean, so for most of my 30s then was riding dressage and riding lower level horses, and tried a young horse that was basically a payment plan toward an FEI horse, that I couldn't afford to write a big check all at once. I thought, well, I'll spend still a fair amount of money on a really promising young horse, and I'll have, by the time she grows up into an FEI horse, I'll have basically the same amount of money into her, but over a longer period of time. And she was spectacular in terms of physical ability and just beautiful horse. Really difficult though. Ultimately, low marks on trainability.
Yeah.
So her ultimate career path was not as an FEI horse, and it was so the one of the happiest things, and another kind of charmed part of my life was getting connected with the horse that I have now, Mercy, who is a German-bred Hanoverian. He just turned 21, and I've been riding him for 7 years now. And at the time that he and I met, I did have the opportunity to lease him for a little while before I bought him. And I thought he was not what I wanted. Because I, as you know, balancing the objective and the emotional, I, as an emotional amateur, wanted to buy a horse and give that horse a for-life home. And I really didn't want to make a commitment to an older horse that I thought would, you know, be short on competitive time with me and longer on, you know, retirement and financial drain. And I wasn't sure at the time that I met Marcy he was going to be kind of the best FEI schoolmaster. But he's still, well, we just got the silver last weekend. Yeah, so at 21, still going remarkably strong. And he's been exactly what I needed. He was, you know, right away, just looking at pictures of me, one of my best friends that I'd grown up riding hunters with, she and I still keep in touch. And she said right away, just from the pictures that she had seen of me riding the young, talented mare versus Marcy, was, gosh, you just look so much happier and so much more comfortable in Marcy. You know, just something about the pictures on the super talented, young, difficult one was it was that look of real focus and concentration, and just, it wasn't the relaxation and happiness that she saw. I mean, and she keyed in on it immediately, just from seeing, you know, 2 pictures of me.
So, Laura, you also have a really, really cool health story, which it makes it even more complicated to do what you've been able to do. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Sure. I was born with a very rare skin disease called lamellar ichthyosis. So it is genetic, hence the born with it. And it means that my skin reproduces too fast and doesn't shed fast enough, so it builds up and scales. So it looks very dry. A lot of folks mistake me for a burn victim, but probably the aspect of it that's most relevant to riding is that I physically can't sweat, cannot perspire, so I have no natural way of cooling myself down, which makes
hard.
It, yes, very difficult.
That's a problem in Kentucky and
in
anywhere
Kentucky,
south of that. Yeah.
Yes, in Kentucky in the summer, you sweat when you walk outside.
There was an article, I wish I know who to attribute it to, last year or so in the Chronicle of the Horse that talked about what an athletic endeavor riding dressage is, particularly upper-level dressage. And that really resonated with me because it is even more of an athletic endeavor, which makes, it even harder for me, yes, in terms of heat management. So for starters, need to ride them as early in the day as possible. So getting the silver medal done the other weekend was done with a dispensation certificate to be able to ride without the coat. So that saddens me greatly since riding Pre-St. George is still new, and I haven't worn the tailcoat very many times.
One. It's beautiful.
Thank you. I don't have very many pretty pictures of me in a shad belly, so it really pains me to ride without it. But I was not able to wear it, not even a chance. And super nice folks managing the show, asking in addition for an early ride time. Yeah, because when it's warm, riding without a coat isn't nearly enough to help me out. I'm still, getting really overheated. So it's tailoring my warm-up, to be quite short, so I'm not overheated before I even get in the ring. And then was really fortunate to have the very first ride of the day, right at 8 a.m. So it was,
and thankfully,
as cool as it was going to get.
Yeah, it was a relatively cool morning, but we had a heat wave that week, and we were both watching the weather and praying that we wouldn't have that heat wave. But you were, truly amazing because it was quite warm and you did great. But it's another huge hurdle that you have to do to get these medals. And I think that's why you are so inspiring, not only just being a corporate woman and working the hours that you work and trying to stay fit. You also have a health concern. And so it makes it even more difficult to be able to reach that silver medal milestone. And, that's why you're truly an inspiration to me. And it's fun. We communicate a lot. And I think that, just talking with your trainer and being open and upfront and telling us exactly what you need and exactly what the horse needs, we've created a really fun partnership between all of us. And it's been quite a fun journey. You haven't been with me that long, but I can't wait to go for our I-1 scores now and go toward the gold medal.
I love it. Yeah, definitely. So it is. As I've brought more focus into my riding goals. I mean, as you know, very much. Yep. Ultimately, want a gold medal. Know that I will need to finish that on another horse. But that's
well, Marcy's still going strong. The I-1 I think is doable, but he's going strong, and he has also really risen to the occasion, and we've had a wonderful time with him as well. So, Laura, thank you so much for your time this evening. You even have people over at your house. I don't know how you do everything, but thank you so much for your time tonight, and you truly are an inspiration, and just showing everybody that it is possible to kind of have it all and do everything and still have your horses and be successful. So congratulations. And we'll have you on again when you get your gold medal.
This week's dressage training tip is brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, home of the shoulder relief girth at TotalSaddleFit.com.
And this week we have a listener email. Awesome, eh?
I love it. We love emails. Keep them coming.
Yeah. So here it is. Here's the question for the dressage tip. I am a Western trail rider, but I love listening to your show for the entertainment and then the training tips that carry over. I would like to hear what dressage exercises that each of you would feel would be beneficial to a trail horse and rider. This is a good one.
Yeah, I think this is a great one. And I think this is even something that can apply to when you take your horse out. And,
it's like kind of a hacking question, right?
Yeah, we always talk about what are some things you're doing outside, right? So, even starting from opening a gate. So I had a young horse out in the field today, and Ashley was riding him. And they worked on opening a gate for, I think they were out there about 20 minutes. Took a while. He didn't want to move off the right leg. There was no leg yielding. There was no movement.
Halt and get the gate and come
standing.
Around.
So I think even just the basic idea of opening a gate, I think is super important. I think it's important anyways. I think horses should be able to open a gate. So all our horses learn how to do that. And I think from a trail riding perspective, that's also very important. And, you need your horse to move off your leg to go forward. And you also need them to move off your leg to go sideways. So I think any kind of leg yielding exercise, and it doesn't even have to be you turn down the center line and at D, you leg yield toward E. You don't have to do that. It's just the act of when you put your leg on and you want your horse to move away from it, that's what you do. And I think that's really important. So just even the basic idea of a leg yield, or if we do it if we're by a tree, which I know it sounds silly, but they have to move away so they don't run into the tree, right? So I think that's a very basic application.
Simple. Yeah, that's simple.
Very basic. But if you have a young horse that doesn't want to move away, then the tree will stop them and they will eventually move away from your leg. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I think it's rare that horses naturally, when you're first getting on, you're first teaching them, would move equally away from the left leg and the right leg. So I think that's something important to work on, right? That will get your horse's attention, get them busy, they get supple through their body, they're using their body better, and it becomes useful and helpful as you're out, Leg yielding is a great one. I would say, as we're talking about, opening, closing gates and things like this, a turn on the forehand or a turn on the haunches.
Yes.
Apply the aids and be able to move your horse around without them running away or even trotting off when you're using your legs and your hands a little bit. So, your horse doesn't have to be perfectly connected to be doing a little leg yield or a little turn on the haunches, right? you can just, make sure you can move them around. I think that's very important that they understand that when you say, hey, there's a big ditch over there, let's move away from it, right? That they understand that a little bit. I think that's super helpful. And,
Exactly.
And it helps the horses' bodies, right? So I think that's a good one.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's a great question. And I think it applies, because when we're hacking, I still want the horses to be listening. It is a mental break, sure, or we're working on fitness, so that's why they're out. But they're still working, and they still need to listen to the aids, and they still, and then it's no fun to ride any horse. I don't care what discipline it is. If it's a show jumper, or an event horse, or a trail riding horse, if you put your leg on, the response needs to be there. So I think that's really important. So yeah, no, I think that's a great question. We love we like you doing discipline questions because I know Philip, like myself, I do. I coach a lot of jumpers and I coach a lot of event horses. So it's nice to be able to kind of think in different ways on how dressage affects those disciplines. So it's the same thing with trail riding and riding your horse outside. So thank you for the question. We love it. And I hope that helps.
This tip was brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, the shoulder relief girth that Reese and Philip both love. And here's why.
The saddle fit solution you have been waiting for is finally here. TotalSaddleFit.com is proud to introduce the Shoulder Relief Girth. This strategically shaped girth actually moves the girth line of your saddle back over 1 inch, thereby freeing your horse's shoulders from the saddle. Traditional girths pull saddles up against a horse's shoulders and often over the top of the shoulders. The Shoulder Relief Girth's recessed ends allow for the billets to buckle into the girth farther back to give your horse unparalleled freedom of motion. We are so certain that your saddle will fit better and your horse will be more comfortable that for a limited time we are offering a 30-day, 110% money-back guarantee. If you are not totally satisfied with your Shoulder Relief Girth, send it back for a full refund plus 10% of the purchase price. Don't wait. Order now for the best saddle fit solution available.
At TotalSaddleFit.com. Visit TotalSaddleFit.com.
Well, I hope you enjoyed our trainer tip of the week. And please, 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 we love email and Facebook questions and shout outs. So send us some more questions. We love to answer them. And if Philip and I can't answer them, we will make sure we find an answer for you. So thanks for sending in the listener questions. We love it. And you can find our show notes and links to today's guest on our website, dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
You can find me at philipparksequestrian.com, and my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors for allowing us to put on a great show. And don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we'll talk to you next week.